This begins week 8 quiz how-to video. Number 1, we are asking what is the measure of angle A? Now we know that the sum of all the angles in a triangle equal 180. So if this right angle represents 90, then 180 minus 90 minus 60 gives us 30. What are the lengths of AC and BC? Well, we have one benefit in knowing that this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And that property is the hypotenuse is the longest side, and we describe that as being 2x. The leg, the short leg of the triangle, is called x. So that means that the hypotenuse is twice as long as the short leg, and the long leg here is x root 3. It's a shortcut to doing these questions. And in this case, if we say that 30 is the hypotenuse, the short leg would be half as big, and the long leg would be the length of the short leg times root 3. And they describe the fact that if this triangle was reflected over the AC side right here, then you would have a 60, this would be 60, and this would be 30, but together it gives you a 60, therefore creating an equilateral triangle. Equilateral being as specific as we can in description. What value of x satisfies this equation? So here we have a nice standard equation. We have some parentheses, but it's a matter of solving for x. Our first step would be to distribute and get rid of parentheses. So we distribute the 8 and get 24x minus 16, add the 6 that was sitting there, and then equals 9. If we distribute that, it gives us 18x minus 9. Here we have some like terms right here, and that gives us a negative 10. I'm going to subtract 18x from both sides to get those terms together, and that gives us 6x minus 10 equals negative 9. I'm going to now add 10 to both sides to combine those like terms, and then divide by 6 to solve. So 1/6 is our answer. Number 3, the mean travel time or average travel time to work for Minnesotans is 21.9 minutes, which is less than the national mean of 25.5 minutes. Since the mean is reported instead of the median, what is probably true about the data? Alright, let's look at our options. The data are easy to add. Well, that makes no sense because every data is going to be easy to add. The data do not include outliers. Possibly, we'll think about that. The data are all small numbers. Not quite sure what that means. There are not very many data items. Well, from that information in the word problem, we won't be able to tell this. And the data are all small numbers. Now 21.9 and 25.5 for mean time, they don't seem that small, so I'm not quite sure where this one's going. But they do not include outliers. Now, this is a tough question, but this is your best answer. The reason is that if they're going to use the mean to describe something, they have to be very careful that there wasn't an outlier to mess it up or to pull it a certain direction. So since they use the mean, it tells the reader that an outlier probably does not exist. Otherwise, it would have been a poor choice to use the mean. So F is our better answer. Between which two variables would you expect to find a high correlation in a data set, but no causation? Very important question, because causation means something causes another to happen. High correlation means they're related. So if we look at these choices, speed a car is traveling and the amount of damage in an accident. Now there's a correlation here, because if you have high speed, you usually have high damage. But does one cause the other? Yes, this does. High speed is a contributor to a lot of damage. So this one's okay. The price of a hamburger and the number of hamburgers sold. Now again, if you have cheap hamburgers, you're probably going to sell some. If they're too expensive, you're probably going to sell less. So the price does impact how many are sold. So this one's okay. Size of a lake and the number of fish in the lake. Well, one would think that, well, it's bigger, so therefore more fish, but it's probably not guaranteed. There's some big lakes that have very low fish count, low fish population, and some very small lakes that have some great big population of fish, but it doesn't seem to cause one or the other. So this one is going to be a problem. Okay. Now this last one here might make you say, well, why not this one? This one can't cause anything. Well, you're right. Number of letters in the last name and the score on a math test has nothing to do with each other. So definitely, letters in the last name do not cause score on a math test. But they do say there's a high correlation. Okay, so that means that the numbers would impact the score on a math test. They'd be related somehow, even though maybe one doesn't cause the other. But really, if you made a scatter plot and counted the number of letters in a name and the math scores, it would be kind of just like this. You wouldn't know what was going on. So this is not it because of the correlation part. All right, now in C, just to reiterate, you might get a large lake has more fish, a relationship like that, so it's correlated. But again, the question is pertaining to cause. Does the size of the lake cause it to have more fish? And the size of the lake has nothing to do with it. Number 5 gives us a parabola, and it tells us that it models the height h of a projectile t seconds after it is propelled upward from the top of a 10-story building. After how many seconds does the ball reach maximum height? Now, if we graph this parabola, it'd be launched from the top of a building and go up and come back down to Earth. The question is, how long does it take in seconds to reach its maximum height? Now, in a parabola, this is the line of reflection, or axis of symmetry. And the equation for axis of symmetry is negative b over 2a, where the number in front of the t squared is a, the number in front of the t is the b, and then the one with no letters is the constant c. So if we were going to plug that into this formula, we would take the opposite of b, which is negative 160, and divide by 2 times negative 16, which is a. That would give us, if we calculated that out, we would get 80 over 16, excuse me, and that is equal to 5. So we would put 5 on our grid, and that is our solution.